Nikki makes contact with Deacon Sharpe in Los Angeles, and Diane and Phyllis get an ultimatum. The young and the restless heirs today. Kyle and Summer set the rules. Diane receives another odd text, and Nick is furious over Victoria's plans. Kyle and Summer decide to sit with Diane and Phyllis at society after talking about it. A delighted Phyllis responds, "Sure." Kyle reveals that it was not a friendly invitation to hang out. Summer agrees that this is really serious. Diane and Phyllis sit the kids down and reassure them that the success of the company is their top priority. Diane's sole motivation for being at the gathering is to promote peace within the family. According to Phyllis, they both see things the same way. The conversation will continue with them speaking, as announced by Kyle. Let's stop making threats, dropping allegations, and undermining each other. Phyllis insists that despite Diane's best efforts, she has been neglecting her completely. Diane is extremely aggravated by the content of the file on her computer. Phyllis says that they are false charges. Summer says she's had enough of mediating their argument. No matter who starts it, they're both out of here if there are any more fights. Nikki goes to Los Angeles to see Talia Morgan and tell her she'll be meeting with Deacon Sharpe, the man who assisted Diane Jenkins in staging her own death. She plans on getting enough dirt on her to force her to leave. Talia is eager to learn her findings so that she can broaden the scope of her story. If the magazine declines to publish further installments about Diane, she will turn them into a book. Nikki is overjoyed. To catch Deacon off guard, she wants to confront him. He is totally unprepared. Talia is trying to sound aggressive but is actually quite timid. What do you anticipate will happen today? Nikki is hesitant to meet with Deacon because she doesn't know what to expect from him. A problem I have with him is, she must stay focused on her mission and not allow Deacon to derail her. Talia is aware of the danger posed by Deacon. I have no doubt that Nikki can handle Deacon. Talia recommends they have a conversation about it first. Nikki speculates that, off the record, she may be right. Toxic algae blooms are being fueled by both climate change and human activity. Nate comes to comfort an obviously distressed Imani at Crimson Lights. Imani said her father passed out and had to go to the hospital. Her mother can't take much more of this stress, and she constantly feels a knot in her gut as a result. Nate offers to get in touch with his doctor to see what he can learn. He claims she has helped him out more than she knows, and he wants to repay her kindness. Nate calls the doctor and discovers that Imani's dad passed out from weariness. They lose contact, and he assures her that her father will be all right. He just needs to rest. Imani is grateful for the distraction. Nate recommends that she pay him a visit in the hopes that it will help her feel better. She receives a bare embrace from him. Victoria tells Nick at Newman Enterprises that she has uncovered potentially valuable information, but that it is strictly confidential and must not leave this room. Nick is stunned to learn that Devin and Lily intend to take Chancellor Winters public. Victoria plans to utilize the confidential knowledge to acquire a controlling stake in the company. Nick is curious as to the source of her knowledge. Was it Nate who delivered this? Nick is aware of Nate's dissatisfaction, but this extreme display of vindictiveness is not of character. Victoria thinks Nate recognizes the wisdom of the decision. Nick is curious. What's in it for him? Diane says it's not right that she should be dismissed because of Phyllis's terrible behavior in society. Phyllis believes that if Diane does something that leads to her being fired, it just doesn't seem fair. Kyle brings up the point that they had been warned that disagreements between them would be a deal breaker. They shouldn't be employed if they are unable of communicating with others. Phyllis begs Summer to change, while Diane tries to convince Kyle, but none of them would budge. Despite Kyle's assurances that they're doing okay, the team has decided to stop bending over backwards to accommodate them. This, Summer says, is the final warning. Diane assures them they will no longer be put in an awkward position of neutrality. A piece of Phyllis's heart has broken because of this talk. I won't be taking any action. Do not fret over me, I am safe. All of them are excited to return to their jobs with fresh eyes. Diane and Phyllis leave. Kyle is praying this is the final straw. Summer says to herself, well, I guess we can hope. Imani tells Nate at Crimson Lights that she plans to visit her father. He believes that Devin would like for her to use his private plane. Imani praises his reassuring presence and reliability. Nate appreciates having someone he can talk to who can relate to his situation. What I like most about you is that you pay attention to what I have to say. I mean, pay attention. They take a seat, and Amani repeats that she told Nate to trust his gut because he's so talented. He has every right to be at the helm, and his audacious outlook has earned him that position. I'm only becoming bolder, Nate thinks to himself. He reassures her that he still has faith in Devin. That he will change his mind about leaving is what she really wants. You need to convince Devin that he should stop holding you back. Again, you're tuned into exactly what's going on with me, Nate says with a grin. When asked why Nate wants to be CEO of Chancellor Winters, Victoria tells him at Newman Enterprises. Nick exclaims in shock, "Whoa." Victoria stresses once again that he saw an opening and is looking out for the company's best interests. Nick thinks that's the speech he's writing at the moment, despite the fact that everything he's doing is immoral. He cautions that the SEC might take notice if Nate financially profits from this. Victoria is simply interested in hearing his thoughts on the purchase. Nick is infuriated that Nate, feeling unappreciated, decided to cut a deal with the company without consulting him or Lily. Despite their having worked tirelessly to unite the two enterprises, it's going to affect them emotionally, Vic, for the simple reason that it affects me directly. When asked, Victoria simply shrugs. Of course they're going to be offended at first, but that's just the price of coming public with something like this. Nick speculates that she may be motivated to buy the business because of Billy. Is he obligated to explain himself to you? Does that sum up the situation? Nikki opens up to Talia about her struggles with drinking and how Deacon took advantage of her while they were both living in Los Angeles. Deacon served her a drink at Glowworm, and she had a fleeting memory of the two of them making a commitment to sobriety. Present day, Talia gets the rundown on how Victor is happily married to Diane thanks to her. On the day she was said to have died, she apparently confronted the drunk, picked up a rock, and whacked her in the head. Even there, Deacon seized the opportunity. Memories of ordering room service alcohol to help her through her wedding to Sharpe flood back to her. Nikki says she dug herself out of that hole slowly because she didn't want to look back. In order to deal with Deacon today, she will need to do just that. Talia is proud of Nikki for reclaiming her independence. To protect herself and her loved ones, Nikki had to remain unyielding. Talia is confident in her ability to handle any situation or person. In an instant, Nikki is canoodling in a hotel room with Deacon, telling him that she has to talk to her sister about the turmoil in her mind and heart. Now Nikki is telling Talia that she must not forget who and what Deacon Sharpe is. If you let your guard down, though, problems can arise. Victoria insists at Newman that Billy's possible involvement is not a consideration, despite evidence to the contrary. Not even for a second does Nick believe it. Victoria goes on and on about how bringing Chancellor Winters under their wing would be a tremendous and explosive move. Explosive definitely, but not in a good manner, Nick retorts. Even though he has a lot of respect for both Devin and Lily, he is upset because he believes their father would do anything like this. For him, it's also a huge financial outlay. Victoria agrees that this is the sort of thing Victor would do. She will consult with him on the matter, but the final decision will be hers. After Cavern's passing, she recalled, Victor became Chancellor. The time is right for them to reclaim it. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, can you give me one good reason why we shouldn't grab the moment? Nick gives a dismissive shake of the head. Clearly not the news you were hoping to get. At Jabot, Diane stops by Jack's office to say she's sorry she took her accusations about Phyllis to Kyle and Summer. Is she aware that Phyllis wasn't as guilty as she was made out to be? Jack ponders. Diane glosses over that to say she now knows that she put the kids in a terrible position by forcing them to mediate when all they want is uncomplicated working relationships with their mothers. Jack wants to know what sparked the realization. Diane fills him in on the ultimatum and the events at society. Jack thinks they have plenty of incentive to get along. Diane claims that they were both outraged at the treatment. Jack's eyebrows go up. Clearly, they've reached a consensus between Phyllis and her. He wonders if the conflict is more important to them than their careers or even their families, and he suspects that they are enjoying it. Jack has been there with Victor, despite what Diane says being crazy. Don't revert to your former ways, he admonishes. When he expresses concern for Diane, she tells him that she will follow his counsel. I guarantee that from point on things will be handled differently. Jack's glad to hear it, for Kyle's sake and hers. Nate admits to Imani at Crimson Lights that he may have walked away from Chancellor Winters too soon. He has a lot more work to do there. For her sake, she hopes he'll be there waiting for her when she gets back. That's the plan, according to Nate. Imani heads out the door to begin her journey. Nate gets a call from Victoria, who asks to meet about his proposal. Summer and Kyle are hopeful about their mother's predicament and want to give their full attention to the vow renewal at society. They share a deep kiss. Phyllis, sitting on the terrace of a coffee shop, leaves a message for Nikki. Please tell me you're receiving enough paydirt in Los Angeles to drive this bitch out of town. Diane receives a text message by the Jabat elevator that reads, Nikki is in LA with Talia Morgan. She can't put off her editor for much longer. A worried expression crosses Diane's face. Nikki, writing from her hotel room in Los Angeles, writes, important that we meet, and includes her address. Deacon, in an unidentified location in Los Angeles, reads a text message from an unknown number.